So this is going to be my review of Avengers Rage of Ultron. This was a comic that came out about 5 years ago. It was a graphic novel by Rick Remender, and yeah, this was during his Uncanny Avengers run. And also, this comic came out roughly the same time as Age of Ultron. So Rage of Ultron, Age of Ultron, yeah, that's not confusing at all. So, this comic, I should also mention that this has nothing to do with Age of Ultron, the movie, or the comic event. This was just a graphic novel they did just to hype up Ultron. Yeah, also, from word on the street is that Rick Remender intended this to be out of continuity. Like most most of the Marvel graphic novels, because this was an original graphic novel. Yeah, this was just meant to be like a one and done, maybe it happened, maybe it didn't happen kind of story. But what the weird thing is about this comic is that it pretty much goes into continuity, and they use stuff from it from here on out. Like Rage of Ultron is one of the few graphic novels that actually become like essential reading for Avengers comics, especially regarding Ultron and Hank Pym for the vast majority of the time of the character, especially now in what went on in post Marvel after Secret Wars. That's where it really came into play. So for those who are unaware of the story is actually two different ones that coincide. The first half of it takes place in the past, where the Avengers at the time capture Ultron while he's attacking New York City, capture him in a Quinjet, and shoot him off into space, and kind of leave him there after Hank Pym tricks him there. The rest of the story consists of that version of Ultron, because remember, Ultron is kind of infinite sometimes. That Ultron shows up again, but this time he's essentially assimilated the planet, the world of Titan. Of course, Thanos and his brother Star Fox's homeworld. So Star Fox arrives to the Avengers lineup, which, this is the time when Sam Wilson's Captain America, Jane Foster's Thor, you've also got Sabretooth on the team. You've got, it's a whole new Avengers lineup, and they are dealing with the sins of Hank Pym's past on a grand scale, because Ultron in here is pretty much like the Borg. He's assimilating Avengers and people alike in this comic. And the main focus of this is Ultron, Vision, and Hank Pym. The other characters in here, while they do serve a purpose, the main focus of this story are those three. It's Pym's weird family tree, in a way. That's the main focus of this comic, is those three titular characters. Now, this comic really puts a light on Hank Pym, because, let's face it, people, Hank Pym kind of goes through the ringer, and a lot of it's self-inflicted of what happens. The dude beat his wife, he's gone through bouts of depression, he's not the most even though he is one of the smartest people in the Marvel Universe, he's not exactly one of the most emotionally stable people in the Marvel Universe either. And this really does pose an interesting question that, Ultron, actually, they're having a conversation, and Ultron says, "You didn't just make me to be your son, you made me, because you knew, you had all that pent-up rage, and I was the one who, you wanted me to be this way. You wanted me from day one to be a killer, to wipe out humanity, because they never understood you." And that's really chilling, and some people may cry foul, for like, oh, Ant-Man would totally not do that. And I'm like, really? Have you not read Hank Pym in comics? He's not exactly, I can get behind the idea of him, like, not intentionally making Ultron like that, of making him homicidal, but, implanting that kind of seed into his mind, subconsciously. Yeah, I would imagine someone who, with that, the kind of complex that Hank Pym has, yeah, I can totally believe he would do that. I can totally get behind that. There's also some great stuff in here between Vision and Hank Pym, having this conversation after they kill some AIM androids. And there's this really great conversation, and Hank Pym pretty much Vision says, are there any safeguards for me? And he's like, no, you're the only AI I've ever encountered who doesn't want to wipe out humanity. You're an abnormality. And Vision's like, you motherfucker. And I like that. They never really, I like it when comics go into the relationship between Hank Pym and Vision, because technically speaking, Vision is Hank Pym's grandson in a way, because Ultron always viewed himself as Hank Pym's son. Even in here, Pym refers to Ultron as his son, and there's some really great stuff, almost Shakespearean, very great Shakespearean levels of mirrors between how Ultron and Hank Pym's relationship is very much like the sins of the father, weigh heavy on the son. And it really comes to light here with, with these conversations between Hank and Ultron. And again, I really enjoy how Vision plays into this kind of matter as well, because he walks that line. He is, the only good thing that came out of Ultron's, madness. Or ergo Hank Pym's madness. My only regret is that they didn't go full into it with having more with Wasp and Scarlet Witch, who are both in this comic. I kind of wish there was more done with them as characters, honestly, because they are part of this weird pseudo family in a way. Yeah. Also, I don't have to keep this away from you guys. Yeah, this is also the comic that Ultron and Hank Pym merge into one being, and yeah, it's kind of like a logical decision. It's like, yeah, that would make sense that Ultron and Hank Pym would eventually be, Hank. It really takes that whole thing of Hank becomes what he hates. It really takes that idea and really runs with it. And again, I know in Uncanny Avengers post Secret Wars, they bring this idea back and use it to new levels with the character. So yeah, this comic is it's one of the few graphic novels where required reading is needed. Anyway, the artwork in here by Opeña is really great. There's just some really stunning artwork. Also, goddamn, can Rick Remender write an action sequence? There is just some brutal fights in here, especially the fight between Ultron and Vision at the end. That one is probably the best fight in this comic, is that final fight between Vision and Hank Pym / Ultron, or Pymtron, I guess you could call him. That sounds really stupid. But anyway, that's a really brutal fight between the two. Excellent action in here, great storytelling, and yeah, all around, it's a really good comic. As a fan of Ultron being my favorite Marvel villain, I think this comic does him some really good justice. And someone who really kind of likes to read more about Hank Pym, this really kind of shows that, yeah, he's kind of fucked up. And, he's one of the most flawed superheroes in comics. So, if you're interested, I'd say go check this out. But keep in mind, this does require some reading from Rick Remender's part on the Rick Remender Uncanny Avengers run. So you guys tell me in the comments below, if you've read Avengers Rage of Ultron, what did you guys think of it? Did you like it, hate it? Comment below, let me know. And once again, hope y'all enjoyed this, and I'm out.